There are things that lurk in the shadows, things with teeth and claws, eyes that never blink, and footsteps that never echo. For centuries, people have whispered their names around campfires, drawn their shapes on cave walls, and built walls to keep them out. But some monsters don't stay hidden. Some knock on your door, some wear your face, and some are already inside. Tonight, we explore 6 chilling encounters with creatures that defy explanation. Ancient, unknowable, and far too real. Welcome to Real Weird Things. In the remote village of Elmridge, nestled at the edge of an ancient forest, there was a well so old that no one remembered who built it. It stood in the middle of the village square, sealed with an iron grate and chained shut. The locals spoke of it in hushed tones, referring to it only as the Old One's prison. For generations, it had remained undisturbed. Children were warned to never go near it, and even the elders avoided speaking its name after sundown. But in the summer of 1977, a drought struck the region. Wells dried up, streams vanished, and the crops began to wither. Desperation grew, and so did temptation. It was Thomas Brigg, the new schoolteacher from the city, who first suggested opening the old well. He laughed at the villagers' superstitions and dismissed their warnings as primitive folklore. "Water doesn't care about legends," he said, "and we need it to survive." Despite protests, he organized a group to pry the grate open. It took hours to break the rusted chains and crowbar the ancient cover free. When they finally peered into the depths, they were met with a blast of cold air and a stench like rotting meat. What they saw wasn't water. It was movement. Something shifted far below, glistening in the torchlight. A shape, a limb, then darkness. That night, the first scream was heard. A farmer named Eli went missing. His wife said she saw something slithering at the edge of their property, tall as a man, but bending in ways no creature should. The next morning, they found only his boots, standing upright in the dirt beside the empty well. One by one, those who helped unseal it began to vanish. Some were taken in the night, their homes torn apart. Others went mad, clawing at their skin, whispering about the watcher below. Thomas became obsessed. He stopped teaching. He locked himself in the library, poring over old church records and forgotten tomes. He discovered the village was built atop a pagan site, a place once used to bind a creature known only as Gorham, the hunger below. The well wasn't just a water source. It was a seal. On the final night, villagers awoke to the church bell tolling. It wasn't Sunday. They found Thomas standing by the open well, pages from an old book in his hands. He was chanting in a language no one recognized. When they tried to stop him, the ground trembled. From the well came a sound that couldn't be described. A roar, a howl, 1,000 voices screaming at once. The villagers fled as a black tendril, thick as a tree trunk, burst from the depths and dragged Thomas down. The well collapsed inward, swallowing half the square with it. The town was abandoned within weeks. Today, Elmridge is a ghost village, reclaimed by forest. Satellite images show a deep scar in the earth where the well once stood. And late at night, if the wind is right, hikers swear they can hear the bell tolling from beneath the trees. In the rural outskirts of Mecklenburg County, Virginia, there's a forgotten stretch of road that cuts through what locals call the Whispering Pines. Most GPS systems refuse to recognize it. Even paper maps avoid its name. But among old families in the region, there's a tale passed down through generations, about a man who was never quite whole. They called him the Hollow Man. The story dates back to the winter of 1928, when a traveling preacher named Elijah Brandt arrived in the area. He was unlike other ministers, soft-spoken, dressed in threadbare black, and always with gloves and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face. He carried no Bible, only a small wooden box he never let out of his sight. Brant preached fire and fear. He warned of false flesh, of souls that wore skin like clothes, and of a great hollow hunger that walked like a man. He claimed he'd seen it once, a man made of absence, and it had followed him across 3 states. Most dismissed him as a madman, until children started disappearing. The first was a girl named Lily Crowder. Her bedroom window was found open, and her bed neatly made. No signs of struggle, only a faint sulfur smell and one chilling detail. Every mirror in the house had shattered during the night. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more children vanished under similar circumstances. Each home had the same signature: broken mirrors, open windows, no footprints. Panic spread. Locals blamed Brant. They stormed the cabin he was renting, only to find it abandoned. On the wall, scrawled in soot, was a single phrase: "He is not a man. He is the echo of one." Decades passed, and the tale of the Hollow Man became a local legend. But every now and then, always during the coldest nights, reports would surface. A figure spotted in the woods, too tall, too thin. A man without footsteps. Shadows that bent the wrong way. People spoke of a low, hollow whistle heard just before dreams turned to nightmares. In 1986, a paranormal investigator named Carla Ridley came to Mecklenburg to document the legend. She stayed 3 nights in an old hunting lodge near Whispering Pines. On the second night, she recorded hours of audio, most of it quiet, except for one moment at 3:17 a.m. A voice, breathy, distant, and impossible to locate. "You are wearing your skin wrong." Carla vanished the next day. Her equipment was found on the porch, still recording. Inside the lodge, nothing but a broken mirror, and the wooden box once carried by Elijah Brant, now open and empty. Some say the Hollow Man still wanders the forests, searching for a new form to wear. Others claim he's not a ghost or demon, but a concept, a void that takes shape when too many people believe in it. Whatever he is, if you ever hear a low whistle near your window at night, don't look, because if you see him, it's already too late. In the heart of Finland's frozen north, near the edge of Lake Inari, there's a tiny village called Sajola that doesn't appear on most maps. Isolated by dense woods and surrounded by ancient Sami burial sites, the village remains shrouded in silence and superstition. Only a handful of people live there today, and even fewer speak of what happened during the winter of 1952. They still whisper her name, Aino. Aino was a quiet girl, no more than 12, with pale blonde hair and a love for skating on the frozen lake. Every day after school, while the sun lingered low on the horizon, she'd glide alone across the ice, tracing shapes no one could understand. The elders warned her mother to keep Aino inside after dark. "The lake is old," they said, "and it remembers." On January 6th, during the polar night when the sun never rises, Aino vanished. Her scarf was found near a hole in the ice, perfectly round, like it had been drilled from below. There were no cracks, no signs of struggle, just a circle of melted frost and her footprints, stopping at the edge. The villagers searched for weeks. Divers were brought in, but the lake was too deep, too dark. Eventually, they assumed the worst. Then came the knocking. Every few nights, those living near the shore would hear it. 3 soft taps against the underside of the ice, always from the same spot. Some claimed they saw a pale face beneath the frozen surface, eyes wide open, hair flowing like seaweed. But when they ran to look again, nothing. The village priest declared the lake cursed. He performed blessings, scattered salt, even called in a Sami Noaidi, an old shaman. The Noaidi walked onto the ice, stared down, and whispered, It is not the girl that knocks. He left that night and never returned. In 1974, over 2 decades later, a group of university researchers studying subarctic environments came across Sajola. Curious about its seclusion, they set up a base near Lake Inari and interviewed the remaining villagers. One night, a researcher named Dr. Lena Halvorsen went skating alone. Her colleagues woke to find her gone. In her tent was a tape recorder still running. The final minute contained the sound of skates scraping violently, followed by a child's voice. "Come see what I've made." They found the same hole in the ice the next morning. Identical, perfectly round. Dr. Halvorsen was never seen again. The research team packed up and left. Since then, Sajola has remained almost completely abandoned. Locals avoid the area. Even satellite images show strange disturbances in the lake's surface during the winter months, like something shifting beneath. And still, every few years, a traveler disappears. Sometimes, hikers find a circle of disturbed frost near the shoreline, and a faint trail of footprints leading out across the ice. And sometimes, if you're very quiet on a winter night, you can hear it too. 3 soft knocks from below. In the rural outskirts of Ogallala, Nebraska, where endless plains stretch into the horizon and summer heat ripples above cracked earth, there's a field no farmer dares to claim. It sits just off an abandoned dirt road, surrounded by a rusted barbed wire fence. No one remembers planting the corn that grows there, tall, pale, and whispering even when the air is still. Locals call it Dead Man's Acre. The legend began in 1928, when the Wilcox family, homesteaders trying to make a life during the Dust Bowl, built a modest house near that field. For the first few months, things were quiet. But then the youngest daughter, Mary, began waking in the middle of the night, whispering about the scarecrow that walks. She told her mother it stood in the corn during the day, watching the house. But at night, it moved closer, always closer. No one believed her, until the dog disappeared. Then the chickens. Then Mary herself. They found her dress in the middle of the cornfield, clean, folded neatly atop a patch of blackened earth where nothing ever grew again. Her footprints ended just before the spot, as if something had lifted her into the air. The Wilcoxes left the next day. Years passed. The farmhouse rotted. But the corn kept growing. In 1957, 3 teenage boys dared each other to camp in the field overnight. Only one returned, and he never spoke again. The others were found days later, buried beneath the corn with their eyes missing, replaced by dried corn cobs jammed into their skulls. Authorities blamed a drifter. The case was closed, but the stories kept coming. In the 1980s, a crop duster flying overhead reported seeing strange shapes moving between the rows, too large to be animals, too fast to be machines. His plane crashed minutes later. The wreckage was found miles off course, surrounded by husks of corn, even though the crash site was in the middle of open prairie. In 2003, a paranormal investigation team set up thermal cameras and motion sensors around Dead Man's Acre. Most of their footage was static, but one clip survived. It shows a figure, tall, impossibly thin, with arms that brush the corn as it walks. Its face is a burlap sack, stitched into a permanent grin. The footage ends when the camera tips over, capturing only the sound of heavy breathing and the crunch of dry stalks underfoot. None of the team members were seen again. Today, the land is listed under a fake name in the county registry. No one buys it. The corn still grows, taller than it should, pale as bone. Sometimes, travelers passing through claim to see something moving in the field at twilight. A shape just behind the rows, watching, waiting, and sometimes, at the edge of sleep, they hear it whisper, "This land is hungry." In the heart of the Catskill Mountains, Hidden deep among the trees lies the still, glassy surface of Lake Grendel. The lake has no rivers feeding it, no streams flowing out, just a deep, bottomless basin carved into the rock. The locals avoid it. No one swims there, no one fishes, and no one, not even the most daring hikers, camps near its shore, because they say something lives beneath. The first recorded disappearance happened in 1904. A logging company sent a survey team to chart the land around the lake. They never returned. When rescuers arrived, they found the team's campsite abandoned. The fire had burned out. Their supplies remained untouched. Only the tracks told a story. The men had walked calmly, straight into the lake. No signs of struggle. No bodies recovered. Over the years, the lake claimed more victims. A honeymooning couple in 1921, 3 swimmers in 1949, a photographer in 1973. But it wasn't until 1985 that the legend became something more than whispers. That year, a geologist named Dr. Peter Rowe and his assistant, Angela Kim, arrived to take core samples. Dr. Rowe was obsessed with the lake. He believed it wasn't natural, that it was, in his words, a wound in the earth, left by something that didn't belong. They set up instruments, dropped sonar into the water, and began measuring. What they found didn't make sense. The lake's bottom couldn't be mapped. The sonar pinged back shapes that moved, slowly, like drifting leviathans. Then came the sound, recorded on every device. A low-frequency hum, almost like a voice. Not words exactly, but something close. Angela described hearing it in her dreams. Something calling her, begging, promising. On the third night, she walked into the water. Peter chased after her but was pulled under by a powerful current. He surfaced alone, half-conscious, screaming, "It has eyes, so many eyes." Angela was never found. Peter spent the rest of his life in a psychiatric hospital, repeating the same phrase, "It sleeps until it's fed." In 2010, a team of divers, ignoring the lake's reputation, attempted to reach the bottom. Their camera feed went dark after reaching 80 feet. The last image transmitted showed a cavern wall covered in carvings, spirals, eyes, mouths, hundreds of them. Some looked freshly made. Since then, no new dives have been attempted. Today, Lake Grendel is fenced off by the state, officially labeled a protected ecological site. But no conservationists work there. No patrols monitor it. And yet, every so often, someone vanishes near the perimeter. They say the water calls to certain people, those who are broken, grieving, lost. And if you stand by the shore at night, you might see shapes just beneath the surface, or hear something low and ancient murmuring from the depths. Something patient, something hungry, something that remembers you. In a remote stretch of the Nevada desert, beyond the forgotten highways and abandoned mining towns, sits the ruin of a place once known as Cinder Ridge. The town burned to the ground in 1952. Officially, it was blamed on a lightning storm and dry brush. Unofficially, the few survivors told a different story. They spoke of a thing, a creature that walked like a man but wasn't. They called it the Skin Collector. The story begins with a drifter named Jonah Rourke. He arrived in Cinder Ridge in early spring 1952, tall, quiet, and wrapped head to toe in old, stitched-together leather. He wore gloves, a wide hat, and dark goggles that never came off, even indoors. He didn't eat, didn't drink, just sat in the corner of the saloon for hours, still as a corpse. At first, folks thought he was just another dust-weary traveler. But then the disappearances began. A farmhand vanished from the edge of town, then a pair of ranchers, then the local sheriff. Their homes showed no signs of struggle, only a strange black residue smeared near the windows. The only thing missing in each case was clothing and skin, literally peeled away with surgical precision. Jonah was nowhere to be found, but days later he returned to the saloon, his coat bulkier, the leather fresher, almost pulsing. The bartender swore the gloves he wore had changed. They had fingerprints that weren't his. A local preacher, Elijah Hart, became convinced that Jonah was something else. He confronted him in front of the whole town, demanded he remove his gloves, his hat, his goggles. Jonah smiled and peeled off his own face. Witnesses described what was beneath as a shifting mass of flesh and sinew, ever moving, like it couldn't decide what shape to take. It wasn't wearing the skin. It was becoming it. In the chaos that followed, Jonah, or whatever he was, vanished into the desert. That night, the town burned. Elijah Hart survived, barely, and told the authorities what happened. They dismissed him as mad, but he kept telling the story until his death in 1987. He said the skin collector was ancient, older than the sand, feeding on human identity. It didn't just wear the flesh. It absorbed memories, voices, entire lives. Hart believed the creature wasn't gone, just sleeping, waiting. Over the years, hikers near the ruins of Cinder Ridge have reported strange sightings. A man in a leather coat, walking alone in the desert heat, untouched by the sun, always covered, always watching, and sometimes people go missing. Some say the skin collector is still out there, growing stronger with each identity it consumes. Some believe he's already in a city, walking unnoticed among us, wearing someone you used to know. So if you ever meet a stranger who seems familiar, but you can't quite place where you know them from, look closely at their hands and pray they're still yours. Some say monsters are just metaphors, representations of fear, grief, or guilt. But what if they aren't? What if the stories we dismiss as legend are warnings? From hollow men to shadow beasts, from cursed creatures to watchers in the dark. These tales remind us that the world is far stranger than we like to believe. So the next time you hear a knock late at night or glimpse something just beyond the light, ask yourself, are you alone? Thanks for watching Real Weird Things. New stories every single day. Subscribe if you haven't already, and remember, not everything that hides in the dark wants to stay there.